Hey beautiful people of YouTube, welcome back to the channel. I hope you are having a wonderful Wednesday. So I wanted to do something a little different today, and I am going to do a tour of my toolbox and share with you guys some of the things you may need or want if you are a new mechanic or planning on becoming one. So I was a mechanic for 14 years. I spent 10 of those working for Honda. So a lot of my tools are very specific to the Honda world, but hopefully some of you find this useful. So to start out, my toolbox is a Matco 6 series. I prefer Matco toolboxes, not knocking the snap-ons, but on a Matco box, the drawers just pull. On snap-ons, you have this little funky thing you have to actuate, whether slide over or pull up. I don't like that, but to each their own. If you have a snap-on box, cool. If you have a Harbor Freight box, who cares? But this is my toolbox. I bought this toolbox in 2008, and I still have it today. So first we'll jump into what's up here. Obviously a clipboard that is missing half of this. I actually broke this on another technician's butt. And then I have this giant mouse pad thing that Honda issued to all of us because people couldn't properly install airbags. But I used to just set my computer here and just use it as a giant mouse pad. Over here, I have this magnetic light that I got from the Snap-on truck. It's currently charging, but I like when I'm working under the car, under the hood, I can stick this wherever I need, and it throws a crap ton of light. A can of Wins Mambo number 5, as I call it. Lube never hurts. And then right here, this is a vacuum pump, and this is one of the most amazing things ever. This one's air powered. Some of them you pump up. This one's air powered. I have some rags zip tied to the top, kind of as a silencer because it's really loud. But anytime you're doing head gaskets, you can suck the coolant out of the water jacket and out of the bolt holes. Or what I really do the most with this is bleeding brakes. I use this to bleed brakes. I also, anytime I'm replacing a power steering rack or rebuilding a power steering pump, I actually take the return line off. I put this in the return line, and I suck the entire system dry, so there is no mess. So you can actually take the entire steering rack out of the car and not drop a single drop of fluid by doing that. I got a magnetic cup holder from O'Reilly's that I just knocked off, but I promise you, it holds well. Usually, I would have my coffee cup in it. And it's usually also on the side of the box. Oh, there it goes. Holds much better on the side of the box. All right, so top drawer. Top drawer are the things that I use the most. So I've got all my sockets on Hansen socket trays. These are real nice. Organization is key. So honestly, I don't really like to spend a lot of money on sockets. I've broken a lot of sockets over the years, but none of mine, which is funny. So these sockets I bought at AutoZone when I was like 15 years old, both of these sets. And I've been using them. I'm 31 now, and I'm still using those sockets. My impact sockets back here, these are gray pneumatic. I really like gray pneumatic stuff. Back in the day, before Matco had their ADV line of sockets, they sold gray pneumatic sockets. And I kind of suspect that the ADV is just rebranded gray pneumatic stuff. Impact, I use a Aircat 1150. I had a snap-on gun for years. I loved it, but it started to get weak. I bought the Matco gun, was not happy with it, so I went back to an Aircat, which I used to use early on in my career. Love this thing. Super quiet, very powerful. I keep some axle nut sockets back here. There's a 30 mil 12 point for Toyotas, 32 for Hondas, and a 36 for Hondas. A couple oil filter solutions here. This claw, when they're really stuck. This cup fits Honda oil filters, And then this little claw here also. A couple little universals. Get the impact universals. Don't get these freaking floppy things. These things are trash. So get the impact universals. Right there is a impact 1/2 inch to 3/8. Those are nice. Ratchets. I like Matco ratchets because of how thin the head is. Let me give you a comparison here. This is a Matco 3/8 ratchet, and this is a Snap-on 3/8 ratchet. Hopefully you can see the thickness difference there. So these Matco ratchets will fit into a lot of places. Like this 1/4 inch ratchet is extremely thin. Buy good ratchets. I'll tell you that. I've tried getting other brands of ratchet. Buy good brands. Like, I know people go, oh, you can get a Craftsman ratchet for $10. You can. But when you're using something all day, these comfort grips make a world of difference. Snap-on, Matco, Cornwell, all those companies, they've put a lot of R&D into finding things that are going to save your hands. Extensions. I only use Snap-on extensions. Now, that's not because I love Snap-on so much. I have found their extensions to be the best. I've broken lots of extensions, so I have them in everything from 1/4, 3/8, and 1/2 inch. The 1/4s are what's called a Wobble Plus. So let me put a socket on there. If you press the socket down, it locks. If the socket's up a little, they can wobble. And then in my 3/8, I have standard, I have Wobble Plus, and then I have locking wobbles. These are very nice for when you're getting into hard to reach places and you don't want to drop your sockets. So highly recommend Snap-on extensions. I've broken pretty much all other brands, but the Snap-on extensions are really great. And you're going to know some themes here with certain brands of tools. I'm not going to tell you to go buy everything Snap-on because that is wrong. Snap-on makes some great tools. Matco makes some great tools. Other companies make some great tools. So to buy everything from one brand is stupid because no one brand does it all. Wobbles, I prefer the Snap-on wobbles. I've tried other brands and I've had issues. Other guys in my old shop would try to buy like the Sonics, and then a few months later they'd end up buying the Snap-ons anyways, so it was just throwing money away. These are gray pneumatic right here, my 1/2 inch. Being working for Honda, you're not always going to use everything. Like this Snap-on set goes 10 to 18. Well, if you look at the wear differences here, the 15, 18, and 13 have little to no wear, whereas the other ones all have lots of wear. So your common sizes in Honda are 10, 12, 14, 17, 19. So for 1/2 inch, I bought 14, 17, and 19. I think I spent $65 on these three versus $300 and something for an entire set that I'm never going to use. 1/4 inch swivels, again, also, I'm missing the 13, but that's not that big of a deal because I don't use it often. O2 sockets. This one's a Matco. I've had other brands of O2 sockets, and really the Snap-on and the Matco stand far above the others. I've had ones from like the parts store, and what happens is that these stretch, and once they start stretching, they start rounding off O2 sensors. So you want to get them from a good, reputable brand. 32 mil socket for GM Ecotechs. Sometimes when you're doing used cars, you see a lot of Ecotechs. These are just 1/4 inch impact sockets, except this one. This is a 3/8 deep magnetic 10. I highly recommend magnetic sockets. You don't need them in all sizes. I get them in a 10 and then in a 12. Moving on, right here, I have, so these right here are all from Harbor Freight. These are good. They're S2 steel, very solid. I've never broken any of them, and I've used impacts on them. This bit right here is a Snap-on. It's a giant P3, really good for the Honda rotor screws, and it's real thick and meaty. I recommend these if you work on Hondas all day you know about the rotor screws. This little fella right here, this I got from Matco. So that's a crow's foot 14. We had a recall on power steering lines, and this thing paid for itself in the first day. So sometimes you're gonna spend money on an odd tool like this because it's gonna make you more money. So, and then just other common things I use, like a 1/4 inch P2, just different things from different recalls over the years. This is a hodgepodge area. I've got some random stuff over here. I've got some longer Allens, just random things that I use. This right here is a sway bar link, and then the boot from a brand new power steering pump. So when you do timing belts or anything like that where you have to take the reservoir out, you put one in the reservoir side and the other on the pump side so you're not leaking any fluid. Here's a little tool that I built for doing alternators on Honda V6s. There's a bushing that sometimes you have to fight to get the alternator back in. Well, with this little tool, you can push the bushing all the way in. Makes life easier. Gloves, protect your hands. Right here, tread depth gauge, inspection mirrors, brake gauges, pocket light, all important stuff. Safety glasses, pry bars. This right here in the Honda world is one of the most useful tools in this entire box. I call this the magic wand. So several guys in the shop have tried other brands of these, and we've all found that the snap-on works the best. The angle of this head, you could literally do everything in the Honda universe. You can pop wiring with it, you can pop door panels, you can pop valve covers. If you're doing door lock actuators, if you need to get like op rods out of door lock actuators or sliding door components, this is really a do-all in the Honda world. Then I've got my big pry bar. This is great for control arms. Also, I got it with with just a straight tip on it. So what this is real good for is sometimes on older Hondas, ones that have higher mileage, say you do like control arms and you go to put it back together, the ball joint sometimes will spin in the taper when you go to put the nut on. So what you do is you hold this under the control arm and you have another tech lower the car onto this, and this will press that ball joint up into the taper and allow you to tighten it. Let's see, pocket screwdrivers, magnets, all super useful stuff, electrical tape, a leave, and that's everything in the, oh, one last thing, a metric tape measure. So when you're messing with integrated driver support systems, which are your radars, your lane watch cameras, all that, you have to aim this stuff. Well, the measurements for what you're supposed to measure come out in metric. And sometimes they're very oddball measurements that don't directly translate to a imperial standard. So a metric tape measure makes that a lot easier. Alrighty, so moving down, we'll go to the left side first. Right here, I have screwdrivers. I've tried a lot of brands of screwdrivers. I've tried the Matcos. I prefer the snap-ons. I have found that these will remove screws that other screwdrivers just can't seem to get. So if you ever get a really stuck screwdriver, these do it. A Creeder Professional from Launch. I bought this thing back in 2012. It's had a rough life, but it still works well. Good for clearing codes, checking codes on the fly. Sometimes you need to check something out in the parking lot. You don't want to drag your laptop out to use your factory scan tool, so these are nice to have on the fly. This right here, it's called the Tube Grip. Use this for Honda Bond. You will use a lot of Honda Bond in your day-to-day. Valve core remover, also good for Schrader valves on AC. Lots of AC relays and feeler gauges and just random stuff in here. Oil caps, anytime I do engines, I keep the old oil cap because it never fails. Express kids are good at losing oil caps. just a lot of random things that I keep. You learn what things are valuable and what aren't. Like this clip right here is a valuable clip. Exhaust nuts, they're nice to keep on hand. Just random things there. And then my Fluke 87. If you're gonna get a multimeter, you should first of all have a multimeter, but if you don't, get a Fluke. They're the best. That's an expensive meter. I want to say I paid like $500 for that, but worth every penny. Next drawer down, this is the money drawer. This is my power tool drawer. I'm going to tell you, most of my power tools here are Snap-on. They used to be Matco, and then my batteries started dying, and I traded it all in. They gave me good trade-on credit. So it's not really that I prefer the Snap-on. It was I got a great deal to get out of what I was in. So what I'm going to tell you is whatever brand you want to use, just make sure you find a brand that you plan to stick with so all your batteries work with everything. So 1/4-inch drive, long neck. I used to also have the short neck, but I ended up selling that because once I got the long neck, I never used it. 3/8 drive, short neck. Screw gun. 3/8 impact. Some extra batteries. I also have the Bluetooth speaker, but that's currently in the other room. The Nitro Cat stubby 1/2-inch drive. This is awesome for transmission work, doing sway bar links, anything in tight places, doing brakes. It's a great piece of kit. This right here is a 19mm weighted socket for getting Honda crank bolts out. If you've ever tried to get a Honda crank bolt out, you know how hard that can be. This socket is the answer. Typhoon blowgun. Wiener that fits on Typhoon blowgun so I can shoot at people. Air hammer. I've used a lot of different air hammers. I have found the Snap-on to be the most powerful that I've used. In fact, other people in the shop used to borrow this air hammer from me. Lots of different bits for it. This right here, though, is called the shake and brake. You can put different bits in it. I always kept a P3 for the brake rotor screws. Sometimes you get them where they're really rusted, they don't want to move. This will get them out every time. Little cookie cutter, good for cleaning up surfaces, prepping surfaces. Whole bag of cookies. A old air ratchet that I haven't used in forever. And then my Air 3/8 gun. This is an Earthquake from Harbor Freight. I bought this thing 8 years ago. I've used it as a hammer multiple times. It's heavy, but this thing is a champ. It's always done everything I've asked, and for $75, it's awesome. The guy who worked next to me had the Snap-on version, and anything that this wouldn't pull out, his Snap-on wouldn't pull out either. So that is a good Harbor Freight buy. Next one down, this is just a random junk drawer. Got my ASE patches, my Honda patches, silicone lube, Freddy's fry sauce, all kinds of random stuff in there. Down here, we've got a brake clean sprayer, coffee, pig mats, coffee cup, French press, coolant funnel, which is great for burping the air out of coolant systems. I have my digital air chuck right there. There's a brake pad depressor. That's about all for that drawer. Right, next one, we got wrenches. Over here, I've got Matco wrenches, Silver Eagle, 10 through 19. I have offset box wrenches from AutoZone. These are real nice if you're doing trailing arms on a V6 and you need to compress the parking brake cable. You can actually use this one right here to pull the parking brake cable through it. It'll compress it and get it out of the backing plate. Long handle wrenches from Harbor Freight. I bought these things in like 2009 and they've been great. And I cut this one right here, so doing power steering racks on CRVs. Made a stubby 21 out of that. Let's see, moving down. These two wrenches right here, Snap-on, I found that these work the best. They're just straight box in. This one's 17 and 19. This one's 14 and 15. You're not going to use the 15N in the Honda world, but doing drive belts and stuff like that, or oil changes, these are very useful. 12 mil snap-on. I found that under the hood of a car. And then a 10 mil Matco for doing brake flushes. Adjustables, use those for some odd things. This is a wrench extender from Matco. Real great for doing alignments. Snap-on tie rod adjusting tool. You don't really see a lot of the old splined tie rods anymore, but that's what this was for. This is a brake bleeder wrench, 10 mil. Works pretty good. Line wrenches from Harbor Freight. And then gear wrench, stubby, ratcheting wrenches. Those are awesome. Next one down, I've got all my gear wrench right here. This set goes 8 through 25, reversible. I have some standard ones up here that I have not used in forever, but back when I worked on diesels and ambulances and stuff, like these would get used. Next drawer down, have a Honda gray torque wrench for lug nuts, an adjustable pry bar, brass punches, radiator hose pick, bolt extractors, punches, chisels, big breaker bar. This is real nice when you're doing timing belts or valve adjusts. You can rotate the engine real well with it. These are great when you drop things. Scraper. Use this to clean up like brake hardware whenever you're doing brakes. And then the ladies' foot pry bar. What I use this for is I use this end right here for popping off oil pans. Once I get all the bolts out, there's a nice little notch that fits in. You just pop. And then I use the opposite side for pressing connecting rods out. It fits right in the hole and kind of knock the connecting rod right out the top of the engine. Next drawer is vice grips. I only use Irwin vice grips. I've tried every other brand. I've tried Snap-on. I've tried Matco. I've tried everybody else. And anytime you can't get something off with a pair of those vice grips, grab a pair of Irwins. I almost guarantee it'll come off. Right here, this is my plier drawer. Lots of different pliers. My favorite pliers in the world that I use for almost everything is a pair of 45-degree offset. Those are nice because you can get leverage with them. They're great for hose clamps, everything. A Honda valve adjustment tool for adjusting valve lash, as well as some clip tools, wire strippers, lots of snap ring pliers, some long pliers. These, they're just 10 snips, but we actually had a recall where we had to cut a piece inside of the steering wheel. And this is what Honda sent us to do with them. And then hammers. I would recommend go to Harbor Freight, Lowe's, Home Depot, wherever. Spend $12, get you a good 4-pound mini sledge. This will do almost everything you need in automotive. But also have some smaller hammers for other stuff. But that'll be your big go-to. Right here, I have a vacuum pump. That's good for testing evap components and whatnot. You can also bleed brakes with it, but I don't. This one right here is a coolant pressure tester. My standard sockets are down here because I never use them. Then I have a chaser kit and a tap kit, as well as tap sockets, drill bits. And then I have this tap right here. This does not come in any tap set, so this is one you want to buy. This is a 14 by 150. On Hondas, this is your subframe bolts, your trailing arm bolts, all that. So it's real nice. Sometimes they'll get rust in those holes, and I'm telling you, save yourself a bunch of time. Just go in and clean those threads up with this before you run those bolts back in. And then last down here, this is a lot of my specialty stuff. Rounded bolt kit. There's an axle nut kit, tie rod kit, air-powered brake depressor thingy, bore scope, power probe, test leads, stud extractor, digital torque wrenches. Ratchet straps are great to have when you're doing like control arms and stuff. You can ratchet strap the steering knuckle back out of your way to the lift, and then that'll make getting in and out easier. Also when you're doing axles and stuff, so I keep these ratchet straps. This tool right here is for holding the cam gear. If you have to replace camshafts on a Honda V6, this will hold the cam gear so you can take the bolt out. This is for the new Earth Dreams V6s. If you want to do an oil change on one and not make a giant mess, you need this. It's impossible to not make a mess without that. Trim tools right here. So guys, that is pretty much everything that I used on the daily working for Honda, and that did everything I needed to. Like I said, don't latch on to one brand, because no one brand makes everything the best. So also, tool guys, not all tool guides are reliable. Some places you may have a better Matco guide than a Snap-on guide. Some places you may not have any tool guide. And tools have come such a far way. Like, when I first started in this industry, you didn't want to buy Harbor Freight tools. I remember I bought a set of their sockets once, and they literally felt like glass. And the first day I used them, I broke every single one of them. Now, Harbor Freight has some amazing stuff, and as you saw, there's actually some Harbor Freight stuff in my toolbox. So, I hoped this helped some of you out. If you're wanting to be a Honda mechanic, you're not sure what you need to work on Hondas, this is pretty much everything I used to do everything from oil changes to rebuilding engines, replacing transmissions, and everything in between. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I will see you all on Sunday. I'm out.